And we are talking about The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episode 4, The Great Wave. We're going to give our reviews of the episode and then get into a full spoiler breakdown of the episode. Starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Soul Show. I'm Nathan.
Hi, I'm Priya.
And I'm Colin.
Hey, so halfway through the season now. This episode is written by a lot of people. Stephany Folsom, J.D. Payne Patrick McKay, and it was directed by Wayne Che Yip, just like the last episode. The spoiler-free logline of this episode is Queen Regent Míriel's faith is tested. Isildur finds himself at a crossroads. Elrond uncovers a secret. Arondir is given an ultimatum. Theo disobeys Bronwyn. So, it's big enough. So, Priya, what did you think of this episode?
So I have noticed that every episode keeps getting longer by like 2 minutes as the series goes on. I have to say, for me, this was probably the slowest episode since first episode. And it felt like a lot of setup for stuff to happen, but then I'm like, what happens in this? If you just take the standalone episode, I feel like it's a lot of deliberation. It's still a lot of like setting up characters, setting up the storyline. There's some foreshadowing. There's a lot of like emphasis on signs, and we can get into that in the spoiler. But yeah, generally it felt a bit slow to me. I will say that. So hopefully next week will quicken. I think especially after last week, which was there was a little bit more. And as you read in the logline, we actually didn't get Nori this week, and the Harfoot, and it was still like a little slower paced than we thought it would be, or at least for me. I'll let you and Colin share your thoughts too.
Okay, Colin, what do you think?
Yeah, I echo Priya in a lot of ways, but I think I kind of saw it at the beginning that I thought that the pace would quicken a little bit, but it's just still, it's like watching paint dry, and it's just like, oh gosh, like, yes, there's some nuggets here and there that are really, really nice, which we'll get to in the spoilers, and they'll be like, wow, that connects back to what we talked about, or connects back to the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. But it just took so long. I mean, yesterday we were talking about She-Hulk, and it was like, oh, it's like quick and nice and funny and lighthearted. I understand Lord of the Rings is much, much different. I understand that you have to draw it all out, but it feels at times like what I feared was that it's like The Hobbit, where it's like, oh, can we just keep the story moving? Can we get to the interesting parts? It's not like Lord of the Rings where it's very interesting all throughout. It keeps you almost at the edge of your seat, even though it's 3 hours long. This just like it just gets to be, for me, more of a chore, and to like let's get the chess pieces ready to go, and let's put them there, and then let's get it going. Come on, why does it take an hour to tell the story instead of just condensing it to 40 minutes? So that's kind of my thoughts about this episode, and kind of my frustrations overall with the whole series so far.
Okay, I feel like I'm the contrarian this week. I like this episode. I didn't find, well, that's not true. I did start it and then come back, but that's because I was doing a lot of stuff, family stuff today. So I did start it earlier today, and then I came back and watched it later on. But like, I don't know. I was when I reviewed the previous episode with Priya. I mentioned on our last live stream that I spent like last week doing a like deep dive on the Second Age. So a lot of the stuff that sounds boring in like random, I catch references, and I know that they're setting up things for later on. I also know that they are planning 5 seasons, and and it seems like the end of the fifth season is going to be that battle with Isildur. So they have to. There's a bunch of stuff that they have to get to before they get there.
Right.
And then they have to fill in a bunch of stuff that wasn't in the Silmarillion or the extended tales that like they're to make things make sense because so I understand like it's seeming slow, but I mean I see potential battles that I know that are going to come up that are before that end battle. I see potential like people getting corrupted that are going to be more interesting later down the road. And they're also within this show for the characters that they created that weren't in Tolkien's work. It is even though I know some of the things that are going to happen, I'm still curious about who they are. Like Adar, like Halbrand. So those things are keeping me kind of hooked. So I don't know. I like the episode, and the fact that the Harfoots were not there helped quite a bit. Helped out quite a bit for me liking the episode because, like I said, I do not care about what's going on with them, except for who the stranger is, which we didn't get to see this week. So, yeah.
Look, I didn't mind it. I mean, I've read a lot of the Tolkien, and I know where they're going as well, Nathan. But it's kind of, I don't know. If I take this show as a standalone episode, I feel that it was a lot of setup. I mean, yes, we kind of know where they want to go, even with the way that the Lord of the Rings started, right? We know we're gonna end with Isildur pretty much cutting off Sauron's fingers.
Failing to destroy the ring, yeah.
Failing to destroy the ring, exactly. So I completely understand that, and I think there are a lot of things like Colin said. We know that they're going to make these connections. And I completely agree. I think there's a lot of connections that are made, but as a standalone episode, I don't know. I was a little kind of, I think especially because I like last week's episode quite a bit. I think I was a little bit like a dip.
I'm trying to think about like what happened last week. Last week we got there were definitely Harfoots.
Was it a dog?
I mean, like sorry, go ahead. We saw Numenor for the first time, yes, and now we're just still in Numenor. So I guess we didn't see anything new. Although we did get some Arondir fighting, which I guess we got a little bit of that in the last episode, but we got a little bit more here. We have a little bit more about Adar because the last shot from the beginning of from the last episode was like him blurry, so we get a little bit of a little bit about him. Trying to see what else we got without like spoiling things.
Did Elrond get introduced in the last
in the previous episode? Yeah.
So for those of you, so Elrond is the what was that? That was the thing that Frodo was holding, the light of Elrond.
No. The Ellen.
Different.
It's a little bit. It's a little bit different. I'll show you family trees in a second. That's Elros's and Elrond's father. It's Aramayo. It's Aramayo. I was actually thinking about this after we did this. We did this live stream last week, Priya. Unless you actually pronounce these names with like the Elvish, it sounds like a bunch of consonants put together. But if you pronounce them with the Elvish like accent, you also sound like an idiot. So I don't know. I'll just pronounce them with the Elvish accent. So you can tell the difference between when I'm saying Elendil and Erendil, because those are two. They're so similar. If I don't put the accent on, anyway. Erendil was Elrond's and Elros's father, and that was the light that was in that Frodo got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And Elendil is Isildur's dad.
Yeah.
Essentially, the guy who first goes to try battle Sauron gets knocked down.
Oh yes, now I remember from Fellowship. Yes. Okay.
But as I was saying last week as well, that's not actually what happened in the book. What happened in the book is that he and the king, High King, help me with the name. Priya, huh?
Gil-galad.
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 They actually got Sauron in a position for Isildur to cut his the ring off, but they died in that battle. So yeah, it was. I can see why this wouldn't be as interesting as the last episode, because we got to see Numenor for the first time in the last episode, and that was cool, and we got a lot of cool shots, and we didn't get to see much else of Numenor in this episode, so we didn't get to see anything new.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's hard for me to like talk about this without spoiling things. Like, Pharazôn is an interesting character. The way that they're developing Pharazôn is an interesting character, especially since knowing where he's going to be or where he's going to go, how they're telling the story of him is interesting. How they're telling the story of Míriel is interesting, given the sources, because the sources on her are very thin and also somewhat conflicting. So they wrote her conflicted. Is interesting to me, and I understand it's a bunch of setup, but it's also sort of I think they're trying to show how people are falling even without the influence of Sauron, unless you think Halbrand is Sauron, in which case he was whispering to somebody key in this episode, and we'll get to that when we break it down. So I don't know. Anyway, any other thoughts before we've been chatting for a while without actually breaking down the episode? Any other thoughts about the episode before we jump into the breakdown? No? All right, so go ahead. Okay. All right.
No,
All right, so if you're enjoying the conversation, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps out the channel. Comment down below, or comment as we are talking, because this is live right now. I think, Colin, are you watching the streams or the? Okay, cool.
I am.
All right. So spoilers ahead. All right. So where do you want to start? I mean, we can go in chronological order.
Yeah.
You guys thought this was pretty boring, so I guess there isn't anything to jump to. So go ahead.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I think chronological is fine, because it just starts off with a very amazing kind of dream sequence that the Queen has.
Yes.
And like it kind of so it was pretty interesting.
So Míriel has a dream sequence. The tree is shedding its leaves, which we get, and we understand the importance of what this means at the end of the episode, because it happens again, not in a dream, which makes her change what she was planning to do. I thought this shot was pretty cool. And yeah, I think we already talked about a little bit of this last week, but it's without spoiling too much. You notice that Numenor doesn't come up in any of the movies. Yes.
I was gonna say, yeah. I don't know if it's spoiling it too much.
Yeah.
Considering it's based on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We know the direction that Numenor is going in, but I love that shot. I think it was. I mean, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's also like shocking. It's like when from her perspective, there's no way to escape that, right? Like, or anyone there, right? There's no way to escape it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she has a dream. She's not even in her bed there. She's it seems like she worked through the night. This guy who got in a fight with Halbrand, I guess. Well, really, I don't know. I don't really blame this guy that much. He does seem to be like xenophobic, but Halbrand was trying to steal from him as well. So yeah. What is his name? Whatever. Atomo?
Sure. He is a bit
Yeah.
of a rebel rouser, but his hate in this whole scene is more towards
is.
Galadriel, you know, less towards Halbrand, who he's still sporting the black eyes
Yeah.
from, but you know, then like you said, I think it sets up Pharazôn's kind of rise, right? Because we just got introduced to him last episode, but like this scene kind of is the first time you see where his mind is going.
You also see from here why he would be a popular leader. I didn't notice this in the last episode, but this guy, the guild crest that he was trying to get, that's on this guy. Pharazôn seems to have crests from like several guilds. So as he was telling his his son, he's actually gotten his hands dirty, actually doing real work, which is appealing to people. Which is how when his son mentions, he probably knows almost everyone in the city, and they probably owe him like a favor or something like that. Yeah. It's true. It seems to be true. Like he has a lot of guild crests, like a lot of different guilds there on his chest. And this is probably also very calculated, right? Like he's now he's a politician. He could wear anything. He could wear something more ornate or whatever, but he's specifically wearing guild crests, which are like specifically of the people. On his chest, to show that he's down with the people. It's interesting.
And also he
does have
incredible
hair. Yes.
Can't deny that. He does have some beautiful locks, that man.
Yeah, the gray isn't even that much of that much of an issue there. It adds to the whole thing. It's a beautiful hair, like you said.
Well, he did say something about being wise was very important. So like he just kind of like he just kind of has this aura of
yeah, he looks like
confidence and like being about statecraft. So he knows he's in a good place in his life to kind of like be that type of man of the people type of politician.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He knows his brand.
Yeah, he looks like a supermodel Moses if Moses was white instead of brown. So yeah, this is I think his son and also Elendil's daughter are creations for the show. They don't actually show up anywhere in Tolkien. So he uses his gift for oratory to quell this. I saw earlier today people thinking that he actually set this guy up to cause a problem so he could come in and quell it. Do you think that's what happened here, or you think it was more natural?
I wouldn't put it past him to do that, but
because after he calms them down and also offers them wine, basically get them drunk. He gives him that guy like a knowing nod, and that could have been just like, it could be a lot of things. It could have been just like him just like getting him to calm down, but he goes to this crowd and specifically seeks him out. Here, you see it, and there's a look there, and there's a look there. I don't know.
It could be.
Because
even like when he's first approached by, I guess, his son in the market, he's like, shh, put your voice down, which made it look like he didn't want people to know that he was really around at first.
Well, he didn't want him to be calling him Chancellor. Like, I think that he rather the people that he's saying how to know him as Pharazôn. And his son is like yelling Chancellor, Chancellor. I think that's how I read that scene. Like he didn't want he didn't want him calling him Chancellor around these people who he's trying to connect with. And his best rendition of like mayor of the town, basically. As he's shaking hands and kissing babies. So I that's that.
He knows his brand.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when when he says that thing to his son that Colin mentioned about he'd rather him be wise than clever because clever men don't have the ambitions, or he has ambitions of higher things if he was because he's wise. Yeah, and I guess they will become friends at some point. These two characters that don't show up in Tolkien, so it doesn't really matter what they do. The writing staff has some leeway with how their story develops. What
I guess there has to be a young love story.
Sure, but I think what they're going to
guess.
try to what they're going to try to do is have them affect the characters that we do know in some way. That's important, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. This conversation with Galadriel is also interesting. So she asks her for help in attacking Sauron in the Southlands. And I don't know. She makes a joke here about well, she tells her that Halbrand is like the king of the Southlands, and he's in exile or something to that effect. We talked about this last week. Do you actually think that he's the king, or do you think he's Sauron? Or do you think that he just, like he said, he just took that off of someone? Because he does not seem keen to leave the island. He mentions this later on in the episode as well. Like she's husbanding a whole force of people to go and attack the Southlands on the assumption that he's gonna come and like be the aid to his people. And return as a king, and he didn't ask her to do that. He seems uninterested in that happening. Even in the previews for the next episode, he's like, "You're telling me to leave this island, and I told you I don't want to leave this island." So, who do you think he is? Do you think he actually is the king?
I mean, Colin, what do you think? Because I mentioned last week as well that what my view. I'll save it.
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I think that you're talking about Isildur's dad, right?
Not Isildur's dad. Halbrand, the guy who's in jail right. The guy who's in jail right now.
Okay, I mean, they did mention there was a quote that said that Galadriel, I think, said that he's some fallen king of the Southland. I don't know what to think anymore. Whether Adar is Sauron or he is Sauron. I don't. Yeah, that's kind of perplexes me because they haven't. That's probably much more of a mystery to me than of anything is who Sauron really is. So, because again, in the beginning of the episode of the series, we saw him, but in like full regalia. Was it him? Yeah. And then after Morgoth had passed. So I'm not quite sure which one is it, or I get the sense that he's more of the kind of an Aragorn type of character. We talked about that. Aragorn vibes than I think.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last week. Go ahead.
We did. I feel like after this week's episode, I'm like, he's neither. Like, I don't feel... I was saying, like, I think he's meant to give you Aragorn vibes, but I was saying last week, Colin, like, Aragorn would not have just left those people on the raft, and he wouldn't have, like, had such a violent fight in the middle of the street that Halbrand had, like, breaking
he is
that
clever,
guy's
though.
wrist, and, so I feel like he is clever, and he's very silver-tongued, right? Which makes you think he could be Sauron, because that's Sauron's MO, right? Right now, he's a shapeshifter. He's all about, like, getting, influencing people, getting them. And you see a lot of that, of Halbrand doing that this episode, especially with Galadriel. And so it made me kind of think that. But I guess it just depends how going to go from the books in the show. Because in the books, the Numenorians actually, which happens at the end of this episode, they leave to go to Middle Earth to kind of see what's up. They hear about Sauron because Sauron's already active in Middle Earth, and so they actually go and they capture him and they bring him back to Middle Earth, right? So that's kind of what Tolkien had done. Now I don't know if the show is setting that up with the end of this episode, or if they're saying, oh, Sauron's actually there already and he doesn't want to leave because it's Halbrand. So I don't know. We'll kind of see, but I feel like he might just be like a red herring where, we want to think that he's Sauron, or we want to think he's.
Yeah, I get. Adar is much more of the Sauron type. He has more of the vibe for me right now. As I think, rather than Hildebrand.
Yeah. So right now there's like 3 possibilities. There's Hellbrand, there's Adar, and there's also the stranger that's with the Harfoot. I guess there's 4 possibilities. There's those 3 guys, and then he hasn't shown up yet. So those are our possibilities. I still think even with the addition of him kind of whispering in Galadriel's ear, and the fact that he's very skilled with statescraft, I don't necessarily think that this is Sauron. I still think this might be the Witch King, or who will be the Witch King later on. I think he has some like anti-hero vibes about him, in that he's trying to do basically what's good for himself, and that pushed he'll do what's good for everyone else as well. But that also is like the kind of people that could be corrupted. Like all the kings who get the rings are corrupted. So that's a sense of getting off of Halbrand.
So from the Lord of the Rings, we know that the most powerful one was the one that became the Witch King, who rides the Nazgul. So that could work. I mean, that could work because like I said earlier, like Galadriel kind of mentioned, I think in this episode, that he mentioned that to the Queen, that he was some fallen king of the Southlands most likely, and that could be the lore because of how Galadriel's kind of putting 2 and 2 together to see that Sauron is really trying to take over the Southlands and make it his own kingdom. Eventually becomes Mordor. We know that, but I just think that that might be the case, Nathan.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. In this brief exchange, I think they also mention the Queen is incredulous. She doesn't believe that Halbrand is a king of the Southlands, and she says that Elrond is a runic emperor. So Rune is here on the map. It's basically in the east. If you remember the movies, the guys who were riding the elephants and had the mask, this is the part of the Middle Earth that they're talking about, in that joke, and that joke and her joke, and also in his rejoinder that he's just a petty lord of that part of the world. Get back to where we were there. Jumping around. So yeah, and then she gets herself thrown in jail. By being as annoying as she has been since the first episode. Like she has no subtlety about her, which again is sort of what Halbrand tells her in the cell here. She's like, you show up, you say, give me a ship, and a bunch of other things. Yeah. It's like, this is not the best. It's not the way to talk to people. What do you think is happening with Isildur here? What do you think they're trying to tell? Like, they're trying to slowly explain why he doesn't give up the ring. Like there's someone whispering to him, some woman's voice. I'm sure we'll see more about it. But what do you guys think? Any theories about what they're trying? I assume what they're doing is laying the groundwork to try to explain his psychology of why he was so taken in by the ring, why he didn't destroy the ring when Elrond told him to destroy the ring. But I don't know. While that might be the goal, I don't know how they are going to achieve that goal from the whispering. I have no idea what this whispering is.
Well, it could be his mother. Yeah, I think that it's kind of it's. If you're talking about the psychology of him, it's probably that the temptation from the Ring of Power, from having Sauron's ring was because probably the psychology of losing his mom. We saw that in the earlier episodes of kind of like that grief is still there out of from him. So I'm assuming that it is that, and I think that that's probably what kind of fed into it. But also it could be because his father is kind of like a little bit lukewarm about him being about his kind of station in life in some ways. We saw that argument a few episodes ago with him like talking about his future and things like that, and how his daughter, how he was so proud, his father was so proud of his daughter when his daughter was an apprentice, and then it kind of like overshadowed a lot of that kind of drama that the both of them had. So I think it has a lot to do with his mother, but also probably some type of disapproval from his father later on in the episodes. I mean, we saw a little bit of that, like I said in the previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also thought it was like because he's always kind of looking towards the west, the west part of Númenor, and in his mind that's kind of we did last time as well. In his mind, that's where he sees himself. His brother's there, and I think he says it later as well, like I don't deserve to go to the west. But I think it's kind of it's kind of he's trying to break away from the molds, I guess, of what the expectation is of him. Like he doesn't really want to be a sailor, or in this I don't know if I call it a sailing guild. He wants to be part of this. He wants to kind of break away and do his own thing, and I'll be curious. I think they're spending a lot more time on Isildur than I would have anticipated for the show. But they have a long time to go for us to see Isildur who doesn't throw away the ring in the fires of Mount Doom versus like the quote-unquote dreamer Isildur that we're seeing now. I think it'll be. I feel like Elendil kind of empowers a lot of the feelings that we're supposed to get for a hero type versus Isildur, and maybe that's what we're trying to see. Like Isildur never actually was a hero; he was always kind of in his own self-interest, acting like how whatever he wanted to do, that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the West that's calling to him, like you said, Priya. This is, I think we talked about this last week. This is the part of the island that's more faithful to the elves and the Valar. So I guess it's fitting that that part of the island is calling to him. So I guess it's significant in that way. But I guess we'll see what it means. Yeah. So he gets himself fired, and also his friends fired. Like not just fire. I mean, they lose their spots in like as cadets. And he almost loses his friends. We'll see if he loses his friends like permanently, because they all at the end of the episode sign up to, I don't know, go to war. So.
Go to yeah.
So this the big guy is Valandil, and I don't know what the other guy's name is. The maybe he's the one maybe he's Automo. But Valandil is actually the the name of Isildur's son. So that makes me think that this guy is going to die. At some point, he's going to feel guilty because he's going to cause his death. So we shall see.
Chances are. Well, chances are if he stays on Numenor, then probably.
What'd you say?
I said chances are if he stays on Numenor, then anyway, yes, he will.
Well, everyone, yes. Because of, yes. Yeah, almost everyone who's from this island has not a great fate at some point. So...
Yeah. But I guess it is fate. I mean, they talk a lot, they focus a lot on fate, right, in the original Lord of the Rings series, and so I think it is fateful that he gets them kicked off, because that means they can actually join now the Queen's, pseudo army to actually go to Middle Earth.
Well, I don't know. Like, I guess they would have been. You don't think they would have been able to join? It's not even really an army. I guess they're accompanying her. But
yeah, it sounded like volunteers. So I feel like if the captain doesn't volunteer you,
yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe, because as many people as like raise their hands to accompany her, I feel like there's still large sentiment on the island that are with that guy that was trying to cause a riot. It's been several generations. It's been several generations since they broke with the Elves, and they're not gonna that sentiment is not going to go away overnight. So.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
So this guy shows up. He seems to actually care about the orcs here. I don't know. We talked about him possibly being Sauron. He's probably maybe not. I don't know.
Or he could be the Witch King too. That might be another possibility.
Well, he's an elf though. He's not man.
Right. The Witch King was a man. Yeah. This conversation that he had.
Or
Pardon?
Sorry, I was gonna be. I know I was gonna be silly. I was like, or that's where Uncle Benjen went when he went to the north and passed the wall, because it's the same actor.
Okay.
Benjen
from Game of Thrones. Yeah, they've used a bunch of actors back and forth in these fantasy shows. So this conversation that he has with him is interesting. It's a very seductive conversation that he has. Like, he says, you've been lied to, and some of these lies run so deep that even the rocks and the roots now believe that lie. It's just compelling. He's very compelling. You're questioning, were they lied to? Is he lied to? And it also makes you think about Arondir. If this elf was turned, is that the fate of this character as well? Because this is a character that's made up for the show. Are we going to see him eventually turn also? So that's also interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was a really interesting introduction to Adar. I mean, one, I think it's like, it really wants you to ask that question, like, why do the orcs revere him, so much, and why do they call him father? They don't answer that question, but I think it's on everyone's mind because he's an elf. And just Arondir also, you can see that he's questioning, what he should do in this scene, because he has that,
It's like a piece of flint, to protect
hand.
himself.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't use it at the end, because I think he knows that he's going to be reunited with the menfolk and with Bronwyn, so he doesn't use it at the end. But he was obviously hesitant because he also assumed what Adar had to say. So it's
Go ahead.
I think it's a cool intro.
It's a cool.
No, I just said it's a cool intro.
He's compelling. He's probably one of the most interesting things going on in the show right now. Him and the dwarfs are some of the most interesting things. Like he does say that he's not a god, and I think technically, like Sauron is a god, like he's a demigod. So he could just be if this is Sauron, he could just be up lying. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, Morgoth was the demigod, right? And so, but doesn't he say I'm not a god yet? Does he say
he
yet?
says
or did
yet.
I put that
No. I think Morgoth was a Valar. He was one of the Valar, so he wasn't a demigod. Like he was a Valar. Yeah, I said demigod.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Sauron is a demigod.
Yes, okay.
So like a corrupted demigod, just like technically like Gandalf and Saruman are like demigods. They're like the same. They're like at the same level, in the mythology of Middle Earth. So I don't know. He does say he's not a god yet. I don't know. It makes you think, and maybe they wrote it that way to make you think that he might be Sauron. But like I said, maybe he's saying that I'm not a full god. Maybe he's saying that the Valar could still stop me because technically I'm a demigod. I guess you can read into it in a lot of different ways. So, yeah. Yeah, the people from the town running out of supplies. Theo and his stupid friend are just being stupid teenagers and decide to go back to the town to get supplies by themselves. I guess it's safe because the sun is out, but clouds move and that's what happens, of course. And they both get in trouble. His friend completely ditched him as well. Like as soon as the clouds rolled in, he goaded him into doing it in the first place. He goaded him into going into the building. He's outside. The clouds roll in, and he just runs.
He just leaves.
He just leaves him. This kid.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I felt like they were trying to. I don't know about you guys, but I felt like they were trying to do a little bit of like Helm's Deep vibes with the whole we don't have enough food, and they're definitely going for that whole thing. This whole sequence, oh my god, kid with the worst haircut in the world. I was like, please.
You're talking about Theo or his friend?
With Theo. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Even they both have terrible haircuts. But I just kind of was like, this, what's gonna happen because we know the hill that has to come about. So it just seemed like such a silly decision for this child. I mean,
it's a teenager. It's a teenager decision. They think they're going to save the day. They think they're going to save the day.
Illusion.
Yeah. There are also some theories about Theo here, since his father is missing and Arondir is so close to his mother. His haircut is such that you never see his ears. So there are theories about who his father might be.
Wait, so you're saying that he's the father?
You never see his ears. In the last couple episodes, every time you see him, you never see his ears.
He could be half elf.
Yeah, like his hair is always covering his ears.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And we also find out, because remember initially I was asking where he found the hilt, and you guys had said it was like the mother's, but it wasn't. It was the guy who owns the bar, I guess, or the tavern. It was his, because later on when he eventually does come back, he was like, "Oh, you went through my stuff."
Okay, yeah. So what it looked like when they in the previous episode, or like the second episode, I think, when he found it, it looked like he was in like his mother's barn. So I guess he wasn't in his mother's barn. I don't know what they were doing. Why they were looking in this random bar guy's place. So
yeah.
So yeah, he cuts himself to give the blade more blood and it extends a bit. So it seems like this is what they were looking for. Because at the end of the episode, Adar says that it's in the tower. So I guess whatever he told Arondir to tell them about, a truce is now off, because now they want the sword. Yeah.
Nope.
I think I walked away when the scene happened. What actually happened in this scene? I actually had to go run and answer the phone when this happened. What you guys remember what happened in this scene?
They're building something. I don't know what they're trying to build there. I have no idea. This is kind of, like I said, this episode was way too long and just like slow burn. So I actually have no clue as.
So
to
what they're building is
saying.
the tower that. What they're building outside is what Celebrimbor wanted to build in the first episode. What the dwarves are out building, or helping them to build.
Yeah.
So the dwarves and the elves are building this thing that Celebrimbor asked the dwarves to build. So it's actually coming up very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I guess the dwarves are like super builders, I guess.
I know. I was like, has there been a time jump? Because how are they already so far in? So yeah, they're building like eventually what ends up becoming the forge, right? That eventually
The forge for the rings, yes.
The rings. So that's what
Yes.
they're building, the dwarves. And in this
So
scene,
I remember-
essentially, I was saying in this scene, essentially, it's just like it's almost like a heart-to-heart between Celebrimbor and Elrond, and just saying that it's amazing that the dwarves they were able to bring the dwarves over, and then Celebrimbor was saying, oh, your father once casually told me that my fate would be in the hands of his son, and he was like, and that's actually come to pass because you've been instrumental in actually helping me make this forge. And I think they planted this because like Elrond talks about his father again later on in an interaction with Durin. So I think that's kind of why they were focusing on this scene a little bit and this interaction between Celebrimbor and Elrond. But that was pretty much the gist of that scene. And they also, Elrond they were like, where's Durin? Durin isn't around. Something seems to be up. And that's kind of what makes Elrond go to Khazad Dûm and ask Disa, because even though all this construction is taking place, Durin hasn't been around.
Okay, that's what I missed. Like, this is where I came back in, where he's talking to Disa and trying to get information from her, and she's very skilled here in like answering all his questions. He thinks he's clever, but she comes back with her rejoinder. She might be one of my favorite characters in this show. She's awesome.
She's playing coy, definitely playing
she's paying coy, but like I said, Elrond thinks that he's clever because he's making all these observations, but she has answers for every single one of his observations, and she's very quick on her feet here in this exchange with him. So yeah, and then later on we see some him using his elven eyes to spy on them. So yeah, she's basically also protecting her husband. Durin doesn't want him to know because he suspects that he already knows, and he's trying to get it. But so their interaction is interesting. Anyway, I think after this is when they have the conversation in the mine, and then we actually see the discovery of Mithril, which was I guess what was in the chest in the last was it the last episode or two? I think it was two episodes before, because dwarves weren't in the last episode.
Yeah.
So
The second episode.
yeah,
So
second
just
episode.
to be clear, that's the material where the hobbits were wearing the armor, right?
Yes, that is the
Silver.
lighter than silk, stronger than steel.
Dragon
Um,
scale, yeah.
dragon scale material.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. Are there any like legendary weapons made out of mithril? Priya, do you know of?
I don't think it's mostly armor, because it's like light to wear and it's impenetrable. So I think it's more with that, and it's exactly right. The shirt that Bilbo has that then he gives to Frodo, that when he gets stabbed by the troll, it doesn't go through. It's because of his mithril shirt.
Yeah.
Also, if
It's
you
rare.
remember,
It's rare. It's rare. I will say that.
it's
Which is
rare.
why
It's very rare, and also which is what their a lot of their wealth is built upon. If you remember from the Lord of the Fellowship of the Rings, when they go into Khazad-dûm and there's the wall lights up, that is mithril in the wall that lights up in the moon as well. So it shows up a couple times in the movies. So yeah, and also I think Galadriel's ring is also made of mithril. Of the three elvish rings, the one that's given to Galadriel is made of mithril.
Yeah.
So anyway, the mind collapses. They have a heart to heart here about being friends. And let's see what else.
I kind of like that because I think, fellowship and friendship is core to kind of Tolkien's original stories, but it also is one of the more kind of positive relationships in the show between different species.
Yes.
Because we know where the show is heading, right? We know it's going to end up a tragedy because Sauron's going to exploit all of these, prejudices and fears that all these different species have against each other. So we know that that's the direction of the show. So it's nice to see these moments between Durin and Elrond. We'll see how long, hopefully, if that lasts, but it is nice to see like a positive relationship between two different species.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is where Halbrand basically whispers in her ears about how to figure out what's going on, which gave a bunch of people suggestions or thoughts that this is Sauron basically whispering in her ears, and not only because of what he says to her, but how he whispers to Pharazôn, to not attack her. And there's suggestion that when she goes away, there's a scene that's cut here that we'll see later on of what they actually say to each other here when she leaves. So that's why some people are thinking he might be Sauron. Like he started to whisper to him this early.
Because he says you won't stop her if you know where she's going, because he knows that she's going to get Míriel pretty much out of Menor and leave Pharazôn in charge. So it's very cunning. It's very cunning.
Yeah. 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 I think this is where she shows her the Palantir. Is it? And then she gets the vision. Although I think also before that they pass a sword. So last week we thought the other sword that he was given was I'm forgetting I'm blanking on the name of the sword that was broken.
Narsil.
Narsil. We thought the sword that he was given was Narsil, but this they linger on this one, so this could be it as well. The camera lingers on it. Yeah, I haven't. I don't know the books as well as you do, Priya. Do they, in the movies, they use these to communicate? Have they ever been used to see the future?
I'm not sure, to be honest. And I mean, they exist and they talk about the six Palantirs. I'm not sure if they use it as much, like as centrally to the plot to say like this is the future. But I do think that this whole idea of believing in signs or something's coming. Because even with this, it was like, well, the elf coming is the start of essentially downfall in a way of Numenor. And then later she's like, she sees the petals falling from the tree, and that's another sign for her that something. I mean, this belief, because so much of Muriel's kind of character in this episode is around faith, and so you can see that she, a lot of her faith in these signs from the Valar, or from what she's expected to do in this like narrative of her story and of her father's story. So yeah, I think the Palantir kind of helps her with that, right? Because it kind of shows her what she has to do or not do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is this scene is just him running from the orcs, and then Arondir saving him before he almost gets killed.
Yeah,
it's interesting that it's interesting though.
That was some Boromir vibes there. I was like,
yeah, I know, right?
With like, no, please don't die right now. That would be very, very bad.
Same
but that
thing.
was some Boromir stuff. I was like, no, don't do that, please.
True. It's like the slow motion.
Yep.
Like the grand music and like the bows and the arrows. I was like, oh my gosh, is Boromir gonna jump out and just get fucked by these? It was very Boromir vibes for sure.
He does have a cool scene here where he catches a arrow shot at him and then shoots it back.
Very Legolas.
Yep.
Yeah, very Legolas-like. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I thought it was night, and it wasn't. It's just like a lot of cloud cover, which is weird that it was that dark. I mean, it does get that dark when it rains sometimes if it's like a storm, but like it wasn't a storm. It was just it was a lot of cloud cover.
Unless that's like sunrise, and it was, twilight or something when he was escaping.
It's possible.
This is bright sun. And definitely when he was in the village getting out the well, it looked like it was night.
Yeah. And also when she, you're right. And also when she got information from the kid who ran away, it was night at the tower. Yep. So I guess he had been hiding for hours. So maybe this was just sunrise. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. Let's see what else happens in this episode. We get this was I guess more extension of the stuff happening with the dwarves, but the song was beautiful. This actress can also sing apparently. Which was cool. The conversation that Elrond has with Durin about his father was also nice. It was a nice little touch, and also it speaks to what we were talking about earlier. He tells the story of Arendil and how he became a star, which is what you were talking about, Colin, when you were talking about the star of Arendil that was given to Frodo. So, and then he goes and I think he reconciles with his father shortly after this. So, I think after this, I'm trying to think what else happens in this episode. After this, I think this.
Well, the tree starts shedding its leaves as they and also Isildur and his friends volunteered to protect the queen as they made the trip to Middle Earth. As they escorted Galadriel to Middle Earth. So I think that initially it was like escorts, and then the queen just decided to go with Galadriel.
Right. But before that, I guess here this is Arondir delivering Adar's message that
Right.
if they give up and they give up their claim to the land and join Sauron, they'll let them live. Um, and this is also, I think this is what.
Sorry, can you just go back? I was hoping you had a screenshot of that flask. Because it was super fast, and I was trying to see if the sigil on the flask was the same as the thing on Halbrand's neck. Because in quick glance, it looked very, very similar.
It did
the
look
flask
similar.
That the old man, the flask that the old man throws to Theo
yeah,
for
here,
a drink. Like
here,
they
okay.
focus on it specifically, and the sigil on it looked very similar to what Halbrand has on his neck. So it just made that. I couldn't really see.
It kind of looks like a
Maybe not.
bird. I'd have to go back and
Okay,
look at
maybe.
Halbrand's thing. It kind of looks like a bird, whereas Halbrand's thing kind of looks like a crude triangle. I think. No. Actually, it looked like a bird too, but like a different kind of bird. I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. I'd have to go back and look at that photo.
It just seemed very deliberate again that they like show you that. That's why I was like,
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. In which case, you think they're trying to say that basically he is like Halbrand is also with Sauron since he's wearing the same. He's wearing the same.
Yeah, or he's like a servant of Sauron, just like this guy is, right? Because this guy is pretty much like, he's coming back, and we have to get ready to, be aligned because Sauron's gonna come back. So it just, I don't know. I mean, maybe because we also know that Halbrand's from the Southlands, and so is this guy. So
Yeah. Maybe.
there could be a connection. I don't know. We'll have to zoom into Halbrand's necklace because I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because it also just could be he's a servant of Sauron, right? I mean, like eventually the Witch King. So and this guy clearly is on Sauron's side as well, just the way that what he says to Theo. So
Yeah, he definitely is
some
on Sauron's side. He's and Theo and him have this mark that was on Fëanor's body, basically, of Middle Earth. I think last week we talked about this and we talked around it, but we didn't actually say that this is basically a map of not Middle Earth, of Mordor, but like what Mordor will be. Like the Southlands right now are just the Southlands, but it'll all the digging up and the destruction of land that the orcs were doing in the last episode is basically making it Mordor. So we'll see. I guess I don't know if he's branded now, and his fate is his fate is sealed, because he used the
and they almost have the same. They almost have the same hair.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing way too much on hair today. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
Although you can see the old man's ears, you still can't see this kid's ears. I'm making up random theories. Like, this is my Mephisto. He's an elf until I prove it otherwise. This kid is a half elf.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
Yeah. So she tries to ship her off, but then the like you guys said, the tree starts to shed petals, and she rallies the people, and that's pretty much the end of the episode, I think, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Although
I
I think I missed this. He said when this is all over, elves will take orders from us.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the preview for the next episode. Sorry, I skipped too far ahead. Here's
preview.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the preview for the next episode. I recorded this, but I didn't actually watch all of it. But I guess the Harfoots.
I was gonna say I don't remember.
Yeah.
That from,
the Harfoots are
from
showing up
Arizona.
again in the next episode, I guess. Which means that we're gonna get less Khazad-dûm, unfortunately. We could get less with the. It seems like they swap out the little people or in the what you call it, they swap out the doors for the little people. So like if the dwarves don't show up, they have the Harfoot. So I don't know. So halfway through this season, I know I know Colin has lost some patience for this. You're enjoying. I assume you're enjoying House of the Dragon more than this show.
I am, but it's not. But the thing is that I don't want to bash it. It's still there's still some compelling parts to it, but I just feel as though it's just slow, and it's like I just don't yeah, like you said, I just don't have the patience for it. And it's just not just get to the point of parts of it. Yes, you can do character building, and that's all well and good, and you can. I think that the other thing is that the drama is kind of not as compelling. I think it's just what because I think part of it is that yeah, you kind of know some of the characters, but you're not really invested in the drama. Whereas in the other show, House of Dragon, you're invested in the drama because it's compelling. So I think that's kind of like where personally I'm at. But hopefully they can compensate that. Yeah, but
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that drama in House of the Dragon is more adult, though, by design.
Yeah, that's true.
This is never going to be more than PG, or maybe PG or PG-13. So the drama that they're going to have in here is more going to be more moralizing about like the corruption of man in general terms.
True. True, but at the same time, I think that what was really good about Lord of the Rings was action. Like we haven't had like a huge epic action battle sequence. That was what attracted me to it. It's like yes, I know that you have to have a lot of setup in order to get to those kind of big epic action sequences, but that was why it was so compelling was the scope and the nature of it, kind of give you chills like in Return of the King with the battle in the fields. It's like that was just amazing. It's like they Helm's Deep, you thought Helm's Deep was something, and then they upped it up, but they put it up a notch with the Return of the King, and it's like, wow, that's really impressive. And they had people coming together and aligned and stuff. I think that when it gets to be later on, I think I will be very, very entertained and thrilled. But right now, it's just like too much setup for me.
So the things that you liked in the movies are basically the things that people who complained about the movies, who read the books, didn't like about the movies. Christopher Tolkien specifically hated those movies because he said that he reduced his father's very elegant stories into action movies for teenage boys.
I like my action. I'm sorry,
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It definitely is less action, but like I think that they were trying to split the difference between the things that people like in those movies and also not pissing off the people who read the books and actually are more into the lore. And I get what you're saying. It's probably they're probably not splitting the difference well enough now, and maybe they'll find a better mix in season. I mean, this season is already shot, so in season 2. But yeah, I don't know if I would be enjoying it as much if I didn't go and do a bunch of research. I'm basically I'm not. Go ahead.
I think that you're right about that, Nathan. But also, I think the other part is that even the non-battle sequence moments that were compelling. The rivalry between Saruman and Gandalf. Gandalf kind of like tensing up when he saw the ring. Those are really well done. The interaction between Boromir and Aragorn, and just like the tension between Boromir and the Fellowship. So like that is just like really, really good stuff, and that did not require a lot of action, but it was just like I just don't have that, and it's just like, wow, where are the stakes in this? And we kind of get to see that, but not really, because there's so much setup that needs to be done in order to get to those compelling scenes, or make you care about the characters. I say.
Yeah, it's hard to. It's.
I mean, you said it because
Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was saying you were saying with the stakes because when you were talking earlier about with the Lord, especially like the three movies of the Lord of the Rings, we knew the stakes and the stakes always seemed so high because we're like
Yes.
the ring has to be destroyed, right? In this, and the thing is, those even though they're 3 hours long, the show, every episode in this show is 70 minutes, and so it's gonna be like twice as long as one movie by the end of the series. So it's a much shorter story that they're telling. I mean, sorry, slower story that they're telling, right? And so, and it is a bit of a slow burn because it's trying to show you how Sauron corrupted all of these different, like amazing races that each on their own have accomplished these incredible things, but they just don't trust each other. And Sauron, one being, was able to exploit that. And it's a very kind of slow burn that they're showing, right? Because even in this week's episode with Durin and his father, that was such a great, powerful scene between the two of them. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. And it may not happen until season 2 for all we know.
Yeah.
But it's a
their
story.
intention is to tell this story over the 50 hours. So, yeah. If you're and we know where the story is going to end. So there's a lot of like the stuff in the middle. And I guess you could tell the story maybe in 10 or 15 hours, but their intention is to tell it in 50. So and a lot. So like there's like I think hundreds of years between now and when that battle happens with Isildur. Huh? Sorry?
Yeah, I think it's at least like thousands of years before the Third Age, but I still think
it's thousands of years before the Third Age, but like I think it's still even putting that aside, I think it's hundreds of years before that final battle with Isildur, because the other thing is that we talked about this last week as well, Colin. The humans on Numenor die; they also live very long.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things I forgot to talk about earlier is whether you guys think that they will keep the same actor for Isildur, or if they're going to age him up and cast a new actor, maybe in the later seasons, to show him as like an older man, like maybe because they'll have to show him like 100 and something years old. But he'll be 100 years old, like Aragorn was 100 years, like Aragorn was 90 something years old. They'd just be an older dude that doesn't look like an older, like a 90 something year old. So that's definitely a way they could go in the later seasons. Do some time jumps like they're doing in House of the Dragon. Hopefully not as jarring. I think some people... It's funny. There definitely is a split between people who are watching these two shows. There are people who are really annoyed with the side jumps in House of the Dragon. It's like they're jumping too quickly into the future for some people, and some people are like you, Colin. Rings of Power, they're moving too slow. So,
right.
I don't know.
Like I said, I think
we live in an age. We live in an age where you can pick the fantasy show that you want to you want to watch, which wasn't.
I was gonna say that was one of the things I think we talked about the very first episode, that House of the Dragon and Rings of Power kind of came out at such a similar time. And yes, they're fantasy shows at their core, but they're such different fantasy shows. Right, like one is about like good versus evil, and the other one is just about like political backstabbing drama. I want
pretty
power.
much.
So it's they're very different fantasy shows, but I don't mind the time jump. I do hope they at least age the actor, because definitely last week in House of Dragon, I'm like, everyone looks the same.
Yeah. So I mean, this is so. Did it look? Was it a little bit of jarring the incest, given that? In the first episode, she was 15, and technically in the last episode when the incest happened, it was 18, but she still looked exactly the same. Is that
exactly this?
Yeah.
It was boring, and I looked it up. I'm like, okay, the actress is 20.
The actress is
I get
20,
it. But like
the character
they
is supposed to be 18 as well. I think
Yeah.
that's why they were doing the jumps.
Correct.
The character is 18.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I
Go
wish
ahead.
they some because even the I'm sorry we're talking about the wrong show, but even like the queen. I mean, she had like 2 babies, and she
That
looked
is
exactly
true.
the same. I'm like,
that is true.
Now,
not possible.
so yeah, again, we're talking too much about another show, but like, she was technically 15 when she married the king, as opposed to her friend who was 18 when the stuff with Damon happened. So anyway, that's for our
Well, you won't get that. in
that's
Rings of
that. Sorry for
Power.
that. That's for our later conversation about House of the Dragon. We'll have one more. We'll have one more. Actually, this Monday we'll do a live stream for House of the Dragon because we need to drop. We'll drop our review for last week soon, probably in the next day or so, and we'll do a live stream on Monday for the House of the Dragon. All right. Any other thoughts about Rings of Power before we stop this stream? Because now at this point, we actually have gone over the time that the episode was. I was trying to trying to finish it before, but then we started talking about House of the Dragon. Any other thoughts?
Technically, we kept it. Technically, we
did stop talking before the runtime of the episode. We got it under an hour, and then we started talking about House of the Dragon. Any other thoughts about House of the Dragon before we end? Okay, all right. So that's what we think. We want to hear what you guys think. So comment down below, share, like, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. All right, guys. Bye.